Hello, my dear students, and welcome to the online class. Today, we will discuss Chapter 1 from Class 9 Science subject. So, the very first chapter is about matter in our surroundings. Students, if you look around you, we can see many things, isn't it? We can see a book, a chair, a tree, buses, house, buildings, etc. Many things of different shapes, sizes, textures, colors. Yes or no? So, do you ever think in this universe, all these things are made up of material? And in science, we call this material as matter. So, matter is what? Matter is anything that has mass and occupy a space is called a matter. Even the air that we breathe, the food we eat, the plants, animals, all these are called matter, even though they are of different physical states. According to the modern day scientists, the classification of matter is of two types. The first type is that of the physical properties and second is that of the chemical properties or the chemical nature. But in this chapter, we will be discussing about the physical nature of the matter. Now, what is this matter made up of? This matter is made up of particles. But earlier, there was a confusion regarding what is matter made up of. There were two beliefs. First belief was that the matter is like a block of wood. That means it is a continuous object that is a block of wood. The other belief was that it is made up of some particles like sand. Now let us perform an activity in order to know that what actually matter is made up of, whether it is a continuous like a block of wood or it is particulate, that means made up of particles. For that, in this activity, take a beaker. In the beaker, take 100 ml of water. In that water, if you add a spoon of sugar or salt, and then with the help of a glass rod or any stick, if you stir, what can we see? That the sugar or the salt that we have put in the beaker disappears, isn't it? We get a clear solution like the water, and we see that the sugar or the salt disappears. Now what happens to that sugar or the salt particles? It gets mixed up in between the particles of the water. That means the matter is made up of particles. That is why the salt or the sugar particle gets mixed up or it goes into the spaces of the particles of the water. So this experiment or activity proves us that matter is made up of particles. Now, how small are these particles of matter? These particles are very tiny. In order to understand this, let us perform another experiment. For this experiment, take 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanganate into 100 ml of water in a beaker. Now, if you mix 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanganate in the water, we get a purple colored solution. Now, what happens to that crystal of potassium permanganate? It gets mixed up, or it goes into the spaces of the particles of the water, and as a result the whole color of the solution will be purple. And then take another beaker where we first take only 90 ml of clear water, and from the first beaker, if we take 10 ml of the solution and put in the beaker, the second beaker, what happens? We can again see the color of the potassium permanganate solution, but the color will be little faded. Now it will become pink color. Again continue the process by taking again another 90 ml of clear water and 10 ml of the solution from the second one mixed in the third beaker. Then fourth, fifth, we can see that still the color of the potassium permanganate can be seen. That means even a particular crystal of potassium permanganate contains millions and millions of tiny particles which get mixed up or dissolved in the water, and as a result the color of the potassium permanganate can be seen. So what this concludes? This concludes that the particles are very, very tiny. Millions of tiny particles are present in just one crystal of potassium permanganate, which gives us the color of the solution. Now let us discuss about the characteristics of the particles of matter. We have here 3 characters of the particles of the matter. First is particles of matter have space between them. Second is particles of matter are continuously moving, and third is particles of matter attract each other. Let us discuss the first one. The particles of matter have space between them. This in the experiment that we have done in the very beginning, that is mixing of 1 spoon of sugar or salt in the water, gives us or proves us that particles of matter have space between them. The sugar or the salt particles, they get into the spaces of the particles of the water. Also, if we make tea, coffee or lemonade, what happens? The color of the tea mixes up in the water. Also, if we apply the lemon juice in water, what happens? The lemon juice get mixed up or goes into the spaces of the particles of the water. So this proves us that the particles have space between them. Also, the second character is the particles of matter are continuously moving. Now for this, take an activity like if you put an incense stick in a corner of a room and you light the incense stick, you get the smell of the incense stick from the other corner of the room. Yes or no? Or maybe from the next room as well. Why? Because the particles of the incense stick will get mixed up in the particles of the air, and that particles are continuously moving, and that reaches to our nose. Also, these particles possess the kinetic energy, because kinetic energy is possessed by an object due to its motion, and since these particles are continuously moving, they possess kinetic energy, and this kinetic energy increases with increase in the temperature. When the temperature is high, their movement or their moving is also very, they move at a very faster rate. Here we get another term that is called diffusion. Now diffusion means what? When the particles will intermix then it is called diffusion. Now the instant stick mixes up with the part in between the particles of the air. So here there is a intermix of the particles of the matter. So this is called diffusion. Again, the third property is or character is particles of matter attract each other. Now for this again there is another activity. If we take an iron nail, a piece of chalk or a rubber band, and if we try to break it with the help of a hammer, or if you want to cut it, or if you want to break it by stretching, what happens? If we apply hammer, we cannot break the iron nail, but we can break the piece of chalk. Also, if we stretch, we can break the rubber band. We might be able to break the rubber band, but we cannot break the iron nail. So this means the particles, they have a attraction between each other, and this attraction may be different for different types of matter. For the solids, that means for the solid the attraction may be higher, whereas for the gaseous matter the attraction may be less. But there is a force of attraction which keeps the particles together. They have a force of attraction between the particles which keeps them together. So these are the three characteristics of the particles of matter. So students, for today this much only. In our next class I'll be discussing the question answer part. Okay, you practice at home all this whatever we have discussed today and study the lesson nicely. Thank you.